And even as we continue to get you ground reports from various parts of the country and how COVID is really panning out in this latest wave of the infections that are rising, experts say that there has been a sharp rise in the number of cases that are being reported from children and infants between the age of 1 to 5 and how they are being hospitalized because of COVID. We have a panel of experts joining us this afternoon to explain to us the situation and how the recent surge is impacting children. I'd like to introduce them all and welcome them all. Dr. J. Rajkumar, he's a consultant pediatric infectious diseases, Global Hospitals, Chennai. Joining us live from Chennai, also Riddhi Shukla, she's a gynecologist and she's from Arogyam Specialty Hospital. Last but not the least, Dr. Harish Sethi, known psychiatrist. He's joining us live from Mumbai. Thank you for being with us on the broadcast. And Dr. Rajkumar, if I can come to you first to really understand details of this new variant, how it works and why this second wave is more worrying for children, more and more cases being reported in this particular age group, children, infants who are being rushed to the hospital.
This variant appears to be more problematic. The fact that it's affecting children more commonly. The reason is this variant causes more symptomatic children, symptomatic illnesses than asymptomatic illnesses. The past, children are mostly asymptomatic, didn't develop much infection, but this variant is causing more symptoms. The symptoms in the form of fever, diarrhea, body pain, vomiting, etc. That can also along with respiratory infections like cold, cough, like that. So this virus per se is making a problem. And apart from that, our practices. We are not back to our old mask and other things. We have left it already. This is adding up to the more transmissibility and more infectivity, leading out to more symptomatic children.
All right, Riddhi, if I can come to you, because earlier it was more about expecting mothers who were at risk, and if they have contracted the virus, then a possibility of passing it on to the children. But this particular wave has been rather concerning because despite how it was spoken in the earlier wave that, children have high immunity and COVID does not really hit them, it is the contrary this time. And even in Haryana, we've seen out of more than 40,000 cases that have been reported in the last 1 month, 8% of them are children. So what is it that the parents really need to look out for? Can children be super spreaders? And how is it that parents can be more careful?
Yeah, right now India is facing really a challenging situation. Every day I am receiving 2-3 calls from the expectant mother. Then they has been diagnosed with the COVID positive. This is really a difficult phase because even if mothers or those who are expectant mothers or elderly who are staying at home, but the husbands who are going out or a home staff who is going out to take something, then they are bringing infection back to the home. So majority of expectant mother are also nowadays seen that they are being infected newborn child who are because mother is positive. See, the virus is new. We don't have any enough studies to prevent the transmission. It has been said that it does not transmit from mother to child. But what about the respiration? Then mother is feeding the babies, then they can transmit the infection. Other members in the family, they can also transmit the infection to the baby. And the new young children, they are those young toddlers, especially between 2 to 10, 12 years of age, who really don't know how to wear the mask. They cannot keep the mask or a social distancing or a hand hygiene properly. They become a super spreader or carrier for other family members. So situation is really very worrisome, and parents need to teach children about wearing the mask, or they have to take care how to tie the mask. They should teach the children about about washing the hands and ask them to keep distances because this mutant virus is really difficult. Many children are getting affected and also they are becoming a super spreader category as well.
All right. All right. Dr. Harish Sethi, very important point that Dr. Riddhi has mentioned because the mental health of children is very important at this point. These are unprecedented times and, even the parents have not seen something like this. So it is extremely important for them also to deal with the situation in a certain way so that the child is not getting impacted. And something as simple as if the child refuses to wear the mask. Like, How can parents best deal with the children at this point, and what they need to do to ensure that the child retains his or her mental balance?
Three things. One is anxiety travels much faster than the coronavirus. So the scripts inside the family, the narrative inside the family is not only about the virus, it's the secondary fears. Will I get a bed? Will I get oxygen? And will I get the necessary medicines? So these conversations are also affecting the kids. The best way to do is share these fears along with your friends. Connect with the people in your mohalla and in your building. Talk to your doctor and see that your fears are calmed down. And once the fears are calmed down, what is very important for us to tell children or share with children, remember, telling children doesn't work. Sharing with children. Sit down and talk to them in the language of Pokemon, in the language of cartoons, and then they will ask you 100 questions. Remember, when they ask you 100 questions and you're able to answer few, that's the time when they accept your advice. Listen to the nonsense of the child, they will listen to your sense. And that is how the children will be better behaved, better mannered, and also they would use COVID appropriate behavior as many times as they can. Also, parents are traveling recklessly anywhere. Maldives to Mauritius, Mauritius to Mahabaleshwar. Let them understand that children imitate the parents. And it's very important for them to understand that if parents are sacrificing their freedom for survival, children will do the same. So a lot of behaviors in the adults, a lot of anxiety management among the adults, and at the same time, gentle sharing with the children, where children will ask 100 questions in the language of Pokemon, in the language of cartoons, will help COVID appropriate behavior among children. But if you tell them factually, they'll not understand. You can't be a school headmaster. You have to be a mini counselor, a frontline mental health soldier inside the house.
Absolutely. Dr. Harish Shetty. And I also want to tell our panelists that a lot of viewers who are watching this show right now, a lot of calls that we are receiving at this point, and they want to ask them your questions. Right now, we have with us on the phone line Sampath Daniel, who's calling us from Mumbai. Sampath, what's your question and who would you like to ask this to?
I want to ask Dr. Shetty, because he seems to be having some psychology or knowledge of the children. And that helps in, really understanding and building up and taking forward how we handle children in schools. I'm specific about schools because if this is going to affect the children, and how long will it take? Will they have to isolate for 4 days? And second question is it going to be transmitting to other children quickly? The second phase of a wave that is, affecting the children. And this is specifically because of the schools now, they have lockdown, and we want to understand how long this will, go ahead, because one academic year they've already lost. Dr. Shetty.
No year is lost. In a span of 70 years of life, 1 year makes no difference. Everything stops. The war is against the pandemic, no year lost at all. And New York Times had written an article, parents, don't tell your children that you have lost a year. That is number one. Number two, schools will open only when the state and the center issue protocols of safety and how should you start your school. Number three, teachers of schools and headmasters of schools should continuously listen to children. I had a session in the morning with 10th standard kids from a school and I was listening. They were very keen to come back to school to meet each other. They were very keen to know when is their farewell. They were very keen to really do a high five with all their friends. So what is very important is schools will open when they have to. There is no year lost at all. Aspirations and dreams can be preserved, can be protected, and can be achieved a little later. So this is a stop year. This is a stop year. We have to fight the pandemic. We have to survive the pandemic. And the sacrifice, if you think it is 1 year, it is also for our survival. Teachers, school principals and parents need to listen to children, and so that they remain calm, they remain composed. In the panic attacks or anxiety, they need to be actually treated. Never talk about lost years at all. This is a year where children will build their resilience, children will learn how to work with the families, and children will also share all this as they become grandparents, the stories of resilience in this pandemic. And this will become institutional memory and institutional learning for the entire community, for the country, and for the earth. No lost years at all. Children are important. They'll go to school only when they're safe.
Right, very true, doctor. And how beautifully you're simplifying this. It is so important to remember these small basic things. And I hope that answers Sampath's question. Also, next joining us, or rather calling us on the broadcast, is Sarika from Bengaluru. Sarika, what's your question and who would you like to ask it to?
Yeah, I would like to ask any of the doctors who can answer. I am a psychologist and I agree to Dr. Shetty. So my only question is regarding the fact that children are getting ill this time. And in the past, there were adults who were getting ill. So there was a protocol for medication and treatment set up, slowly which built up. So for children, I wanted to understand in respect of children, what is the protocol or treatment thing? Has it been defined or is it evolving right now?
So I would like to take up the question.
All right,
Yeah, mute,
Dr.
sir.
Rajkumar, you'd like to take that?
Yeah.
Please go ahead, sir.
So, in children, the good thing is that COVID is a self-limiting illness for most of the children. It doesn't have just a fever or some respiratory symptoms like a cough, breathing difficulty, or sometimes with a vomiting, diarrhea, like that. And rarely children go for prolonged issues or prolonged symptoms like rashes and decreased intake, etc., like that. So, for most of them, it's going to be a self-limiting illness. One main concern and my side is any child who has symptoms for more than 3 days definitely seek medical advice. Definitely meet your doctor, definitely meet your pediatrician. He will make the difference. He will know what to advise for and what to do for. And once you are under the medical radar, they will take care of it. Main thing, we should not stay home and we should not do self-medication. That is the main thing I would like to convey here.
All right, very important to remember this. Sarika, thank you for calling us. Next, we have Kashmira calling us from Mumbai. Kashmira, what's your question?
I would like to know whether children can be given vitamin C and how can we prevent them from getting the COVID, the second phase of COVID, which is so severe. How can we prevent them? Can they be given vitamin C or zinc or, tablets? And what is the best way? What are the types of food they should be given?
Shall I take it with this?
Dr. Riddhi, you'd like to take that? Because also I've been reading that, children who are suffering from frail immunity or chronic illnesses may be more susceptible to the complications. So how can parents really, give supplements or what they need to do to boost the child's immunity?
See, children are in the phase of developing immunity. Until a child is in the growing years, they are in the phase of developing immunity. So I think whatever things which help child, what you give is a healthy, freshly cooked food, especially high in protein. That will help them to grow as well as to develop their immunity factors. And as far as prevention is concerned, prevention remains almost same. That is social distancing, mask, and hand washing. These three are very important factors for prevention of COVID, whether it is an adult or whether it is a child. That is very important. So we need to, rather than making children panic or giving them anxiety, we should, as doctor said, that we should very nicely teach them to wash their hands and keep distance from the others and wear the mask if they can wear. These three things are again very important as far as prevention of COVID is concerned.
All right, Kashmira, I hope that answers your question. And even as we continue to get more callers, there was another thing that I wanted to ask Dr. Rajkumar, because I've also been reading up on the multi-inflammatory syndrome. Now, although we understand that right now it's on the lower side, but how is it impacting children? What are the risks attached to it? And how can one be careful?
Yeah, this is something that's very concerning in children, and this is what we really watch for. So a child who has fever for more than 5 days, whenever the child has any rashes, develops any redness of the eye, has any poor oral intake, develops some abdominal distension, that is swelling of the abdomen, something like that, then we need to be really careful about. And again, such a child who has increased heart rate or something, we need to be careful about. This can represent some inflammation that is damaging the heart, the lung, or other body systems. This is what we need to be really careful about. And such children should be hospitalized, evaluated in detail, and there are definitely treatment options. We can start with steroids or immunoglobulin or etc. like that. But these are the children we are more concerned about when it comes to overall COVID in children.
All right, I want to thank all our panelists for joining us on the broadcast and answering all these questions. A lot of worried parents, and of course, it is about their children. Unfortunate that more and more children and infants are getting impacted, and we are hoping that we can deal with this in the best possible way. Thank you for answering all the questions, and we move on. Step into a short break.